Hi, my name is Sandy Hoffman, and this is the Beginning Worship Keyboard Video Companion. This video is designed to put you, the aspiring worship keyboardist, on the same page with a worship community that often seems so guitar-oriented. As you apply yourself and invest the necessary time, you'll learn to tune the band, read piano chord diagrams, play chords in popular worship keys, keep steady rhythms, and worship with chords, arpeggios, and pads. You'll also learn 5 brand new worship songs arranged with you, the beginning worship keyboardist, in mind. The video is laid out in 7 sections which build in a logical progression from just getting started to all together now. Along the way, you'll be exposed to contemporary worship chords, rhythmic variations, major and minor keys, the number system, and time signatures. For those of you who are following along in the Beginning Worship Keyboard book, there'll be a corresponding page number in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. If you'd like to order your own copy of the Beginning Worship Keyboard book or other essential worship materials, there'll be order information at the end of the video. Now, before we go any further, let's spend a moment in prayer together and ask the Lord for His blessing and anointing as He equips you, the worship keyboardist, to worship Him in spirit and in truth. Father, we thank you so much for the blessing of worship. And Lord, that you have said in your word that praise is beautiful. I pray, God, that you would anoint every hand, every voice, and every heart that's lifted up to bring that beautiful praise to you. And that you would use us in every place throughout the earth to bring glory to your name and to the precious name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Before we begin to discuss the keyboard in contemporary worship, I'd like to introduce to you Jen Santos. Jen and I have worked together for a number of years in the local church, and because the relationship between keyboard and guitar is so vital in contemporary worship, I've asked her to join me to help demonstrate how these two instruments work together. So Jen, let's take a moment and talk a little bit about the keyboard itself. We know the keyboard is an instrument with 88 keys, and the notes progress from left to right, ascending up the scale. They're in groups of 12, and these are called octaves. So if you would take a moment and demonstrate that for us and show us how the notes progress.
The keys of the keyboard are named C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, and B. The sharped notes can also be identified by their flat names. This is known as enharmonic spelling. This means that C sharp is also known as D flat, and D sharp is also known as E flat, and so on.
So whenever a note is sharp, then it's moved 1/2 step to the next highest note, like C to C sharp. And when a note is flatted, it's moved 1/2 step to the next lowest note, so like D to D flat. Now let's go back over the notes on the keyboard.
C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, and C.
And that's an octave. So Jen, how do we play an octave on the keyboard? And in fact, what is an octave?
Well, an octave has 8 notes, just like an octopus has 8 legs. Or is it arms? I don't know, you'll have to ask him which it is. To play an octave in the key of C, we play C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now we can play an octave in any other key by beginning and ending on the root note of that key. For example, D to D or E to E.
So if we play an octave in the key of D, let's play through that together. That's D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. Now let's drop back to the key of C and listen how they sound the same, but they're a whole step lower. Here we are with C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now that we've established that the keys are 88 individual but repeated notes, let's talk about some of the ways we can combine those notes to use the keyboard in worship. On any instrument, a chord is 3 or more notes played at the same time. On the keyboard, if we take the first note, the third note, and the fifth note in the C major scale and play them all at once, we have a chord. And the same applies to the guitar. In order to create an arpeggio, we simply have to break those notes up and play them one at a time. So now we're going to play C, E, G, E, C, E, G, E. And then if we take some combination of those notes and play them up maybe a little higher, Jen, play them like strings. Try that. Now that's a pad where we hold the notes extra long. String sections, organs, and other legato instruments. A beautiful thing, though, is while she's playing this, I can play a rhythm part on the guitar. And we have this great diversity already with the most simple C chord. So as you can see, chording, arpeggiating, and playing pads on the worship keyboard is vital to you, the worship keyboardist. The job of tuning the worship team often falls to the keyboardist. Most of the time, the team members will use an electronic tuner to tune their instruments. But what happens if they show up without a tuner and their instruments sound like this? The strings of the guitar are E, A, D, G, B, and E. We begin tuning by tuning each individual string. So let's start with the low E. That one sounds pretty good. A. Then the D string. Oh, there's a clinker. If you have inexperienced guitarists, you might have to help with your ear to tell them when it's in tune. Then there's the G. That one's a little low. How about the B string? Ooh, sounds like my dog has fleas. And then the high E. And once we've tuned the individual strings, sometimes it's nice to fine-tune by playing a chord. So the keyboardist will play a G major. And that's a little low. Okay, and then perhaps a D major chord. Until we fine-tune the instruments, the guitar, the bass, perhaps a violin or other tunable instrument. Sometimes the keyboardist has to take that responsibility and make sure the worship team is in tune. Our first chord in the beginning worship keyboard book is the C chord. Now, as we've already mentioned, a chord is 3 or more notes played at the same time. So if we play the C chord, we play the first note, the third note, and the fifth note in the C major scale, and we make a C chord. Before we play it together, let's talk about our posture and our hand position. Jen, show us poor hand position on the keyboard. Okay, so we know we don't want to play slouchy like that because it can bring fatigue and we won't be able to play for very long or very efficiently. So how should we hold our hands to play the keyboard?
Well, you want to position your hands the way you would hold a tennis ball. You want your fingers to be curved and play with your fingertips.
And while you're using this great technique, what should your posture look like?
You want to make sure you sit up straight. And if you're going to be playing the electronic keyboard for long periods of time, you really want to make sure you're sitting down because pushing that pedal could really hurt your back while you're standing up.
That's a good point. Good point. Now the fingers are numbered when we play the keyboard 1 through 5, starting with the thumb, then the first finger or index, the middle finger, ring finger, and the pinky. 1 through 5. And the left hand fingers play the root note of the chord. For each chord, the root note and the name of the chord are shared. So if we have a C major chord, what's the name of the root note?
It's going to be C.
And you'll play that with your little finger in the left hand. Now, the one other consideration we need to think about is the time signature. That tells us how many beats per measure. So with the C chord, let's try 4/4 time now. And what does that mean? 4 beats in a measure. So we'd count 1, 2, 3, 4, C, 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 C. Now notice that Jen is playing the root note of the chord with the little finger, the pinky of the left hand. And she's playing it on the first beat and then allowing it to ring through 2, 3, 4. Now let's add the guitar for diversity. Doesn't that sound good together? It's simple, but it's effective. It really sounds nice. That's the C chord in 4/4 time. Now let's try it in yet another common time signature, and that's 3/4 time. Whereas 4/4 time had 4 beats in a measure, 3/4 is just 3 beats. So we're going to play the bass note, the root note of each chord with the left hand on the first beat, and then we'll play 1, 2, 3 in the right hand. Ready? Let's give this a try. 1, 2, 3. Bass, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. We'll add guitar. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Great. And now you've learned your very first chord. Before we learn our second chord, F, just a word about chord inversions. With chord inversions, the note positions are actually movable, while the names of the notes within the chord remain the same. With the C major chord, we play C, E, G. For a first inversion, we simply play E, G, C. And the second inversion, we move up and make G the first note and play G, C, E. Throughout the beginning worship keyboard video, we'll use right-hand chord inversions to facilitate ease in moving from one chord to the other. But at the same time, we'll keep the root note in the left hand the same. So with every C chord, whether it's root position, or first inversion, or second inversion, the root note in the left hand will remain the same. Now let's learn another chord on the keyboard, the F chord. The F chord is built from the first, third, and fifth note in the F major scale, which are F, A, and C. Now for our purposes, in order to get from the C chord to the F chord easily, we're going to use the F chord second inversion in the right hand. Jen, show us what the second inversion looks like. So we start on what note?
Start on C and play an F and an A.
So whereas we would be F, A, C as our triad, instead we're going to do C, F, A as a second inversion. And in the left hand, what note do we play?
Play an F, which is the root note, with the second finger.
Right, with the second finger. So let's just try the F chords, is to move from one chord to the next chord without any space in between. I know for guitarists especially, it's quite difficult. It might be a little easier on the keyboard, so let's try it together. In 4/4 time, we'll play one measure of C, and one measure of F, one measure of C, one measure of F. 4/4 time. Let's try it together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. C, then to F. Watch your hand position. Make sure that your hands are relaxed. Let's play that again. You're sitting up straight. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. That's the F major triad. Our third chord in the key of C is the G major chord. Once again, we'll use an inversion to play the G major chord to make it easier to get from C to F to G. So what inversion would work best in the key of C?
The first inversion will work best.
So play the root position of the G chord. And And what are the notes in that root position?
The notes are G, B, and D.
Okay, and so how will we invert those to make a first inversion?
Well, we'll play B, D, G.
So basically we've taken the second note in the chord and made it the first note, and that's called a first inversion. And what about the left hand?
The left hand will play the G with the first finger.
Okay, so anytime we have a G chord, the bass note is
G.
G. Isn't that simple? All right, let's try the G chord, and let's do this in 3/4 time, just so we can get used to that other time signature. So 1, 2, 3. Notice again that Jen's playing the chord in the right hand, and she's playing the root note in the left hand on the first beat of each measure. It's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now let's really challenge ourselves and tie these chords together so that we play 4 beats of C, 4 beats of F, 4 beats of G, paying attention again to hand position, posture, and also which inversion to play for each one. So let's start with the C chord. We'll play C, F, G, C. 1, 2, 3, 4. C. Now to the F and the G major. If you're playing along, I bet you want to repeat it. Let's do it again. Another C, C, and F, G, and finally C, 2, 3, 4. Can you believe it? You're ready to play your very first song. Our first song is There For You. And let's be sure and remember that though we're learning music, our heart is to offer up beautiful praise to the Lord. The lyrics are, all of my heart is for you. All of my life is for you. I give you all my praise and all my days. They're for you, Jesus. And we're going to play it in the key of C, and we'll play C, F, and G over and over in a progression. That's called a chord progression. I'm going to ask Jen to play that once for us. Let's play C, F, and G, 2, 3, 4. And then we'll just repeat that chord progression throughout the entire song. Let me count it off. 1, 2, 3, 4. All of my heart is for you, and all of my life. All of my life is for you. I give you all my praise. I give you all my days. They're for you. F, Jesus. See how that's repeated? They're for you. Jesus. They're for you. Jesus, I give you all my days. And that's our first song, There For You, in the key of C. The number system is a system which is used to communicate and cross-reference chord progressions. A chord progression is a series of chords played in a predetermined sequence. We've just played There For You in the key of C with the C chord, F chord, and G chord. C would be number 1, and then we count up C, D, E, F is number 4, and number 5 would be G. So we can play C, F, G, G. With the number system, we can use a number equivalent for each of those, and instead of calling it the C, F, G, G chord progression, we'll call it the 1, 4, 5, 5. Now we can play that same chord progression in any key. How about in the key of D? D is number 1, and then we count up D, E, F, G is number 4, and number 5 would be A. D, G, A, 1, 4, 5, 5. So using the number system, we can play any song, any chord progression, in any key that's comfortable for our vocal range. Let's learn 3 new chords in a new key, the key of G. And we've already played the G chord in a first inversion, but this time let's learn it in root position. Jen, would you show us what root position G major chord is? And those notes are?
G, B, and D.
Right. And with the left hand, we play the root note again. With which finger?
We'll play it with the 5th finger.
Okay, the little finger, the pinky. So let's play the G major chord in 4/4 time. 1, 2, 3, 4. The left hand pinky finger will play on the first beat of each measure. Hold that out 4 beats, while the right hand plays 2, 3, 4. So let's try that. 1, 2, 3, 4. G. If you have your keyboard set up, go ahead and be playing that with us. G, 2, 3, 4. Keep doing that. And just listen to how the guitar plays over the top of that. On the first beat of each measure, the guitar is playing. The worship team, we have to think in terms of each instrument and what their contribution is to the overall sound. G. In the key of G, the 1 chord is G. Would you play that for us? The 4 chord, let's count it up. G, A, B, C. And the 5 chord is D. We want to do an interesting thing in the key of G with the C chord and the D, the 4 and the 5. We want to make color chords out of them so that the C becomes C2 no 3 and the D becomes D sus. Now, Jen, would you play for us the C major triad, which is C, E, and G. Separate the notes. C, E, G. In order to turn that chord into a C2 no 3, we simply drop the E a whole step down to a D. Now we have C, D, and G. Play that for us. That's called a C2 no 3. We've gotten rid of the 3, the E, and made it into a 2. Now we want to turn the D chord, which is D, F sharp, and A, into a D sus. Now we're going to make a suspension out of it by raising the 3 a half step to G. So now play D, G, and A. And listen to how that chord leaves us hanging. It's beautiful, isn't it? Let's play C2 no 3. And now D sus. Now, one thing we have to remember is that we need to invert these chords. With the C2 no 3, which inversion is going to work best in the key of G?
The second inversion.
And the notes in that are?
G, C, and D.
Okay, so what we did was drop the G an octave. And now it's the lowest note instead of the highest. Okay, let's hear that again. C2 no 3. Great. And then how about the D sus? What kind of an inversion should we use for that?
We'll use the first inversion for this D sus.
Okay. So instead of it being the root position, it's going to be?
G, A, D.
G, A, D. And it leaves us hanging. It's suspended. It's a beautiful sound. We use these color chords because they facilitate worship. Remember, this is all about beginning worship keyboard. And we want to see people enabled to worship on their instruments and to take people to that place of the presence of God. We're not just here to play songs. So let's keep that in mind. And Jen, let's play now the G, C2 no 3, and D sus chord progression together. Starting in 4/4 time. 1, 2, 3, 4. G, C2 no 3, D sus, and G. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now just for reference and comparison, let's go back and play the C, F, and G chord progression. Now these are all major triads. There's no color chords, but it is the 1, 4, 5 progression. But listen to the difference. It's not nearly as facilitating of worship as the ones with the color chords. Let's play C, F, G. 2, 3, 4. C, F, G, C. Now let's go to the G, C2, no 3, and D sus. 2, 3, 4. G, C2, no 3. Hear that? D sus, and G. 1, 2, 3, 4.
A rest
is a period of silence. And before we can play our next new song together, I Give You Everything, we need to understand more about rests. Jen, could you play a rest for us? It doesn't take much effort to play one of those, does it? But for every note, there's a corresponding rest or period of silence. And the rests are just as important as the sounds that we make in between. At the end of I Give You Everything, there's a quarter rest on the very last beat. So we're going to play G, 2, 3, rest. Let's play that together, Jen. 2, 3, 4. G, 2, 3, rest. And now that you know what a rest is, let's play this song together. I give you everything. Oh Lord, you are my God. I will worship with all my heart. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh Lord, you are my God. I will worship with all my heart. Oh Lord, you are my King. I give you everything. Yes, I give you everything. 2, 3, rest. To this point in the beginning worship keyboard book, we've played the key of C, 1, 4, 5 chord progression, which was C, F, and G. And then we played the key of G, 1, 4, 5 progression, which was G, C2, no 3, and D sus. Now, Jen, let's add another 1, 4, 5 progression, this time in the key of D. And we'll start with the D chord, root position. And what are the notes in that D chord?
Well, we have D, F sharp, and A.
And what finger in the left hand plays the root?
The fifth finger will play D.
Okay. Now, in order to play the 4 chord in the key of D, we have to count up D, E, F sharp, G. That's number 4. It's as simple as counting right out 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we play the G major chord. Which inversion now in the key of D will we use for G?
We'll use the second inversion.
And the notes in that are?
D, G, B.
Okay. So now we have a D chord, root position, G inverted, and now the 5 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, D, E, F, G, A. And that is in what inversion?
The first inversion of A.
And the notes are?
The notes are C sharp, E, and A.
And the finger in the left hand?
We'll play the first finger on A.
Okay. So now let's play the D, G, A, A. 1, 2, 3, 4. D. This is in block chording. G, A, and back D. D. So now let's make this more interesting and play in arpeggio style instead of block chording. So now we'll play one note for each one beat, and we'll play D, G, A, A. And what chord progression is that? In the number system, it's called the 1, 4, 5, 5 chord progression. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's D. Now G and A again. And now we'll repeat D and G. I hope you're playing this with us. A. Maybe once again. Back to D. D. G. A. Great. And that's the D, G, A progression, 1, 4, 5 in the key of D. We've already played There For You in the key of C, the 1, 4, 5 chord progression with C, F, G, and G. Now let's try it in a new key, the key of D, with D, G, A, A. And instead of playing a block chording style, let's do it in arpeggio style. Actually, we'll play 2 notes for each one beat. Jen, would you just play through that once for us? Just play 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's it. Once again, D, G, A, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and you're welcome to join me, and let's sing it together. 1, 2, 3, 4.
All of my heart is for you.
And all of my life is for you.
All of my life is for you. I give you all my praise. I give you all my days.
They're for you.
They're for you, Jesus. They're for you, Jesus. They're for you, Jesus. I give you all my days.
Rest.
Oh, la 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 la.
This little device is known as a metronome, and it's used to keep a steady beat so that we can develop a steady rhythm. Let's set the metronome at 112 beats per minute. And the keyboard will play exercise 5 from the Beginning Worship Keyboard book. Listen to the tempo, set at 112 beats per minute, and once you get comfortable with it, then you begin 1, 2, 3, 4. Practicing with the metronome helps us to develop a steady rhythm and to play in sync with other musicians. The key of E is one of the most exciting worship keys, and so let's add the 1-4-5 progression in the key of E to those we already know in the key of C, the key of G, and the key of D. In the key of E, number 1 is?
E.
And what are the notes in the E?
Well, we'll play E, G sharp, B
E, G sharp, B with the root note of?
of E, and we'll play that with the 5th finger.
Very good. And then, just like the key of G, we're going to add, with the 4 chord, a 2, no 3. So instead of playing just A, we're going to play A2, no 3. So how do we spell A2, no 3?
Well, we play an A, a B, and an E.
And then what's the best inversion for the key of E?
We'll probably use the second inversion, which will be E, A, B.
Okay, and the root note with which finger?
We'll play it with the 2nd finger, and we'll play A.
Okay, so let's go back and forth from E, 2, 3, 4, A2, no 3, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. E, A2, no 3, back to E. 1, 2, 3, 4. A2, no 3, 2, 3, 4. Great, and then the 5 chord in the key of E, let's count it up together. E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B. B is number 5. And we're going to make that one more interesting too with a sus on it. So instead of playing B, D sharp, F sharp, we're going to move the D sharp, which is the 3rd, up a half step and make it an E. So it becomes B, E, F sharp. Yeah, play that together. And the root note?
The root note is B.
Great, so now let's play E, A2, no 3, and B sus, 4 beats each. 1, 2, 3, 4. E, A2, no 3, B sus, play that again, B sus. And the guitar is playing arpeggios, broken chord. See how nice it is when we just do different combinations. And we'll end it right there. Now what we haven't done yet is use string pads with this. So let's change the pad sound now on the keyboard. And Jen will play strings instead of a piano sound. Let's just hear that progression, the 1, 4, 5, 5. And then what if I play arpeggios? Doesn't that facilitate worship? It's just a beautiful sound. Just takes us away to another place. Makes us want to lift up praises to the Lord. So those are keyboard pads. In the key of E, with the 1 chord, A2, no 3, and the 5, which is the B sus chord. We've played There For You in the key of C and in the key of D. It would be easy to play it again in the key of E with E, A2, no 3, and B sus. But instead we're going to learn another new song, Thank You Again, in the key of E. And Jen, would you show us? We're going to play E. And then we'll play the 5 sus chord, or B sus. And then the 4, 2, no 3. And then back to the 1 chord, E. Chord progressions can be played in any order. So it's all right if we don't play 1, 4, 5, 5 for every song. Now let's try Thank You Again together. And the guitar will play arpeggios while the keyboard plays pads. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Lord, I want to say thank you again. Thank you for loving me. Lord, I want to say thank you again for saving my soul. Lord, I can't repay all that you gave, all that you gave for me. Lord, here in my heart, thank you again for saving my soul. Thank you again. Thank you again for saving my soul. We've been playing in major keys, the key of C, G, D, and E. Now let's talk about minor keys. First of all, to create a minor chord, we play the major chord. Let's try an A major. That's the first note, third note, and fifth note of the A major scale. In order to make it minor, we just take the third note and we flat it. Remember, a flat means to move the note 1/2 step lower to the next lowest note. So now we have an A minor. Kind of a sad sounding chord. Every major chord has a relative minor chord. So if we play a C major, which is where we started, and we walk backward down the scale 1.5 steps from C to B to B flat to A and build a minor chord, we have the relative minor key to the key of C major. C major, A minor. We can play also in the key of E minor, which is relative to G, and D minor, which is relative to F. Now in the key of A minor is number
1.
The number 4 chord in A minor is A, B, C, D minor. We've already learned the D major chord. How do we make a D minor? We start with a D major triad, and then we flat the 3rd. We make it a sad sounding chord. Let's just play in 4/4 time, A minor, D minor, A minor, D minor, and I'll play arpeggios while the keyboard plays pads. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. D minor. Back to A minor. And D minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. In order to complete our 1-4-5 progression in the key of A minor, we have to add the 5 chord, which is A, B, C, D, E. But the 5 chord is a major chord in the minor chord progression. So, let's try the E major and what inversion?
In the first inversion.
In the first inversion. So now we'll play A minor, D minor, and now the first inversion, E major, and back to A minor. Let's try an exercise in 3/4 time. We'll start with D minor, then A minor, then D minor, then E major. Okay? And while the keyboard plays a pad, a string pad, and the guitar playing arpeggios, so we have some contrast. 1, 2, 3. A minor, E major, A minor, D minor, A minor, E major, and A minor. Let's try it again. D minor, we're repeating the line. E major, A minor. The guitar. Let's try another minor key. This time the key of E minor with E minor root position, A minor second inversion, and B sus first inversion. To make an E minor, we go from an E major triad and we flat the 3rd so that the G sharp becomes a G. That's the number 1 chord. The number 4 is A minor. And the number 5, B sus. And E minor. I'm going to ask Jen to play for us A Sense of Place. The keyboard rests on the first beat. Rest. I'll add the melody line. The guitar plays on the first beat. Now 3/4 time. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3, 4. We go back to 4/4 time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. We hold the last note extra long.
Shout to the Lord with a voice of praise.
I'd like us to close our time together with 2 simple choruses, both from the book of Psalms. Clean hands and a pure heart, is from Psalm 24, and Take Me There is based on Psalm 27. We covered the chords for Clean Hands and a Pure Heart earlier in the beginning worship keyboard video. Before we get started, let's set the metronome to 92 beats per minute so we have a feel for how fast the song is. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Clean hands and pure heart, lead me, Lord, into your presence. Clean hands and pure heart, the only path into your holiness. I confess, clean hands and a pure heart. Clean hands and a pure heart. Before we play Take Me There, we need to learn one more brand new chord, the A7 chord, based on the A major triad. So, Jen, would you play for us the A triad, which is A, C sharp, and E. And then we add a dominant 7 to that, which sounds like that. Hear how it's very distinctive, the dominant 7. It's the note G, so we have A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, the 7. Now let's set our metronome to 140 beats per minute. And we'll start with the keyboard pad the first time through and then add the guitar. So this should give us a pretty good feel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Take me there, let me rest in that secret place with you, by your side, so satisfied in that secret place with you. Take me there, let me rest in that secret place with you, by your side, so satisfied in that secret place with you. My personal mission in life is to go before the throne and take others with me. It's my heart's desire that through this instructional video that you'll begin to worship the Lord with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and that you'll lead others to do the same, laying everything at the feet of Jesus.